So there are two new decks from the most recent mini box that have actually been pretty good in the meta. One of them is Unchained, and the other one is the deck that we are going to talk about today, Sacred Beast. Sacred Beast is a lot like Blue Eyes in a lot of sense. It is anime strategy revolving around having a really big guy and back row or hand traps. But even though a lot of people I've seen have been saying that Sacred Beasts are like Blue Eyes but better in every way, I just don't think that's true. I mean, I do agree that Sacred Beast is probably going to be better than Blue Eyes overall, but I still don't think that it's like a strict upgrade and it's like better in every way. I just don't think that Sacred Beasts are just completely outclassing Blue Eyes in every single aspect, and we're going to talk about that today. So let's start off with the things that I think Blue Eyes does better than Sacred Beast, and reasons why Blue Eyes aren't completely replaced by Sacred Beast in general. First of all is Hand Trap Immunity, which is the big one. So we have a sample Sacred Beast deck list right here, and let's have a look at actually analyzing what the Sacred Beast deck actually is aiming to do. So turn 1 or even turn 2, you're gonna try to normal summon as frequently as possible Dark Beckoning Beast, which is a really good normal summon, which searches you anything basically. And we also have a Chaos Summoning Beast, which is okay. But the point is that especially in turn 1, in order to bring out your big guys and also search your field spell, you need to normal summon a small guy and actually use its effect. And that is vulnerable to hand traps because if your opponent has a Veiler, or if you go second, if your opponent has any disruption, you can just hit the small guys, and yeah, it just stops you from comboing. And Blue Eyes doesn't really have this problem because every single monster in the Blue Eyes deck is just big vanillas. So Veilage does absolutely nothing. Droplet does nothing, basically. And not only like monster effect negate types of effects, it's also for other hand traps like Skullmeister. Skullmeister hits Sacred Beast a lot better than Blue Eyes. Skullmeister does nothing against Blue Eyes. Same with DD Crow. You can crow the Chaos Summoning Beast to prevent them from getting the field spell, which is really broken. But for Blue Eyes, those hand traps do absolutely nothing. Not even Lancia. So Lancia can prevent them from searching the field spell. There's like zero hand traps that do anything against Blue Eyes. So Blue Eyes has this really big advantage over a lot of the meta decks in the format that it is just completely immune to basically every hand trap. So if your opponent is playing any amount of hand traps, which they probably are to prepare for the other decks in the meta, you just blank a portion of the deck because a part of the deck is just completely useless against yours. And the other thing about Blue Eyes that I talked about lightly is how most of the gates are just not very good. Not just hand traps like Veiler, but as I said, Droplet, or even other stuff like Forbidden Chalice, which some people are running to counter maybe floodgates like Shadol's. It just doesn't do anything against Blue Eyes because you can just sit on vanillas, and it is not completely useless. I mean, you can still negate the alternative, but it is a lot worse because even if you negate the alternative, it's still a really big guy that you have to deal with, right? And if you target Dragon Spirit of White for whatever reason, you just tag it out and summons a Blue Eyes from hand. So that's just not very effective over in decks like Blue Eyes instead of decks like Sacred Beast. Another thing is the reliability in generic back row. And not just generic back row, but face-up spells and traps as well. As you can see in the Sacred Beast, a lot of their power is concentrated between these two cards. Fallen Paradise, which is a really broken field spell, draws you 2 cards every turn, and also gives your monsters a lot of protection. And Cerulean Skyfire, which negates spells and traps, and also just is very annoying in general. But you might be able to notice that these two are face-up spells and traps that are required to be on the field for the deck to be good. And while they are very good, obviously, it is still a liability and something that your opponent can counter. If your opponent is running a backward removal, maybe as a non-engine or maybe as part of your engine, these cards are very vulnerable, and once you remove them, the deck just kind of doesn't function very well. And the same problem is not present in Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes is a deck that doesn't rely on these types of continuous spells and traps. It is just a very compact engine with big guys and searchable quick plays, which is a lot better than continuous spells and traps in terms of how vulnerable they are. And the other thing is non-engine space. So let's have a look at a Sacred Beast deck. Typically, for consistency, you want to play as few cards as possible, typically sticking around 20 cards. And let's have a look at how many engine pieces you actually need to play. So you need to play all 3 Sacred Beast, even though Urura is not very good, but you need to play it because of the skill. You're going to play a copy of the big Raviel, if you will, to OTK, 3 Darker Beckoning Beast, 2 or 3 Chaos Summoning Beast, 2 or 3 Spirit Gates, 1 Cerulean, 2 Fallen Paradise. That's quite a lot of engine pieces. The amount of non-engine that you can play is very little compared to decks like Blue Eyes. You can play, what, 5 to 6 non-engine usually? Well, if you look at Blue Eyes, you might be able to come to the same conclusion, but don't forget that every single Blue Eyes quick play is basically just good disruptions that you can use in both going first or second. So there's a lot more space and just a lot more opportunities for you to actually use these type of generic stuff and also their archetype quick plays to actually disrupt your opponent. Because none of these Sacred Beast engine pieces actually disrupt your opponent other than Cerulean Skyfire, which brings me to the second point. The Sacred Beast engine itself does not have a lot of card removal. The only card removal in the entire engine is pretty much Uria, which only pops set cards. And Uria is not even very good. It's a 0 attack guy that you only play because you have to play it because of a skill. And none of the other cards actually remove stuff from your opponent's field. Cerulean Skyfire negates, sure, but first it only negates when you have Hamon on the field. So you have to already go through some setup for this to work. And also it just negates. It doesn't actually get rid of any threats on your opponent's out of the field. You have to rely on either generic links or just non-engine in general. But for Blue Eyes, this is completely not a problem. It is, in fact, one of their strengths, because their quick plays are incredibly searchable, and also really good at removing stuff. Both quick plays remove monsters, Dragon Spirit of White banishes spells and traps, alternative pops monsters, and also the rank 8s. Let's talk about the rank 8s. Rank 8s are really good, especially Dingyusu, just insane card. This card sends without targeting, it's good removal, good protection, and other rank 8 stuff are pretty good as well, like Sanafond against Graveyard decks, and Jagluon against Dragon decks. These are really good rank 8 options that Blue Eyes can consistently access, that Sacred Beast cannot. Sacred Beast mainly just makes rank 10s, which are really good at OTKing, which they are already good without, and links, generic links, which are also pretty much only good going second because of the Nightmare's removal effects. And the Nightmares are usually quite costly to make, even in Sacred Beast when you get to draw 2, because you have to use a bunch of materials and also discard cards to actually remove stuff. And unlike Blue Eyes is a lot easier to actually use the removal. And because of how many removal Blue Eyes has, it's also a lot better going second, I feel. Even though Sacred Beast are okay going second because they can just cheat out a Sacred Beast for free because of their skill. But the Sacred Beasts don't actually do too much unless you have the field spell or Cerulean Skyfire on the field, both of which are searchable, but the ways you search it are vulnerable, because you search it with a monster effect, you use it with Darker Beckoning Beast or the Graveyard effect of Chaos Summoning Beast, both of which are susceptible to any sort of removal or any sort of disruption that you have if you go second. And In contrast, Blue Eyes just gets to search it directly from your deck with a skill. It's not even respondable. You can't even negate the search. And that's a lot better because is, having a quick play spell as a removal is just a million times better than having to go through a setup combo to get your stuff and potentially being disrupted. And also having Melody search a copy of Alternative and just pop a monster before you even commit to your normal summon, just really good in general. Okay, now let's talk about things that I think Sacred Beast does do better than Blue Eyes. First of all, it's the turn 1 board. Turn 1 board, Sacred Beast is unbeatable compared to Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes, turn 1 board is okay. Admittedly, it's not bad, but it's not very good either. It's just like usually a vanilla or maybe a vanilla plus an alternative, and then some amount of set back row or hand traps. And the set back row of Blue Eyes are not bad, but they are a lot better going second than they are going first. Going first, Successor Soul is a 1 removal, and Ultimate Fusion is maybe 2 pops. But, well, the problem with that is that, first of all, these are archetype stuff. So, you have, these archetype stuff are really easily searchable, but also, the chances of you seeing non-engine that is non-archetypal is just less in general. But Sacred Beast, the turn 1 board is a lot stronger. You have Fallen Paradise, which makes all your stuff untargetable and undestroyable by card effects. We have Cerulean Skyfire, negate spells and traps, really good. And also generic stuff, which are a lot easier to open because of the second point I want to talk about, because Fallen Paradise is such a broken card that draws you 2 cards every turn. It's a lot easier to see specific cards that you're playing in your deck compared to in Blue Eyes, because you get to draw 2. If you have a really strong tag card against a certain deck in the meta, or some certain decks in the meta, it's a lot easier to actually see it in your opening hand, or at least in your turn 1 after you draw 2 cards, and then in Blue Eyes. So these specific counters are a lot more likely to be used compared to in Blue Eyes, which is a lot stronger, especially when you go first, when you actually have an opportunity to set up without being interrupted most of the time. And let's also talk about OTKing. So Blue Eyes is good at cracking boards. It has quick play spells that remove monsters, and we have banishing back row with Dragon Spirit of Y. We have popping monsters with alternative. Cool. But Sacred Beast doesn't mean that they can't OTK. The decks can still OTK really, really easily, thanks to this one specific card called Raviel Shimmering Scraper. This card is just ridiculous, just makes your monster an 8k monster, and if you have the link to that pierces, like Pentastag, you can just pierce through anything and just win on the spot. Well, I do think that this OTK is a lot more vulnerable compared to the Blue Eyes way of dealing with your opponent's board, because Blue Eyes actually cracks your opponent's board instead of just ramming it over with a really big guy. So Blue Eyes is just generally better into an established board to just crack their board. But Sacred Beast is also pretty good at OTKing as well, just due to how Shimmering Scraper just makes your guy really, really big. And another thing is protection. Fallen Paradise, as I talked about, is really, really powerful. It makes all of your guys just really strong, untargetable, indestructible by card effects, and they're also really big itself as well. Both Raviel and Hamon are 4k monsters, both in attack and defense, so this paired with the fact that you can't remove it really easily just makes it really difficult for most decks to deal with. They usually need to deal with the field spell before they have to deal with the monsters, and not every deck has the luxury to do that. And Blue Eyes has no protection, pretty much. The only protection it has is tagging out effects, like a Dragon Spirit of White that tags out into a normal Blue Eyes, or Successor Soul tagging it out into a Blue Eyes from deck, maybe Ultimate Fusion tagging out from the extra deck, but tagging out isn't exactly protection, because every time you tag out, you spend resources to play through your opponent's removal, and also it works really, really poorly against a non-targeting removal, because they can just remove whatever you summon. And it is just a lot less good in terms of that compared to Sacred Beast. And also, not having protection really hurts Blue Eyes because if you have a look at the quick play spells, they are only usable, not just good, only usable when you have Blue Eyes on the field or just monsters on the field in general. Successors only to tribute 1, and Ultimate Fusion needs to fuse from the field to actually pop cards. So if you actually remove their Blue Eyes, which by the way has no protection, with something maybe like a Dark Hole, they're just dead. They both of their quick play spells are just completely inactive once you get rid of their Blue Eyes. And Sacred Beast doesn't really have this problem because one, they don't really care about removal that much because of their protection, and secondly, they just don't rely on archetypal disruptions that much, and generic tech cards can work without any monsters on the field anyway. And next, let's talk about card advantage. Card advantage, obviously Sacred Beast, really strong, draw 2 cards every turn, it's just ridiculous. But not only that, the deck also has a lot of search power between a Dark Beckoning Beast, searching Opening of a Spirit Gate, searching something else, maybe usually one of the Sacred Beasts, and then you can use a skill to search another card by revealing the Sacred Beast. So, and then Chaos Summoning Beast can manage to search Fallen Paradise. Fallen Paradise draws 2 cards. Yeah, there's just a lot of searching going on, and you can very easily spiral out in terms of card advantage and overwhelm your opponent once you have the opportunity to set up. But Blue Eyes, most Blue Eyes cards are kind of 1-for-1. You can normal summon Blue Eyes and gets you a free back row, and that's pretty much it. For Melody, you have to discard 1 to search 2, so you're not really gaining anything in terms of card advantage. You are getting a lot of good stuff to your hand. A Blue Eyes plus an alternative is really good, both going first and second, but you're not exactly gaining that much card advantage. Successor Soul is 1-for-1, basically. And Ultimate Fusion is just a pop that spends stuff on your field. And other non-archetypal stuff, well, they are obviously good, but they're still not exactly gaining you any advantage in terms of a card advantage. So yeah, Sacred Beast is just a lot better in that regard. And also Sacred Beast has a skill that just gets you a free guy on the field without any commitment. So that's just really, really strong as well. And we talked about this lightly, but because Sacred Beast can draw so many cards and just access their entire deck very easily, and draw 2 with Fallen Paradise, it's a lot easier to open specific tech cards, and one of them that I kind of want to talk about is Tyrant's Tirade, which are seeing play in some people's decks. Some people are experimenting with this card. It's really strong. It's basically a better skill drain if you can activate it. It's 2 tributes. Basically what it does is, let's go ahead and search it right now. Tirade. Tyrant's Tirade, a super low rarity card that I might be using in a top 5 free-to-play version of Sacred Beast. Is just a really strong version of Skill Drain. It tributes 2 effect monsters, not effect monsters, any monster. But it stops any effect monsters from activating from the hand or on the field. Ridiculous. But I don't know how this card, how good this card will actually be. It's only good going first. Maybe it's good in the best of 3 tournament, but for usual ranked play, I don't know how good this card will actually be. I feel like this is more of a win more card, because if you can draw through your deck and already have your setup combo, it doesn't make too much difference if that's like a crackdown or just any generic back row that is good. But Tirade is just really stupid. It's just I don't think it's healthy for the game, but I don't exactly think it's game breaking either. It's kind of like Summon Breaker in that regard. It's good going first, can be game winning, but you might as well play other traps that are also kind of good going second, like Crackdown, for example. So yeah, that's basically my take on both Blue Eyes and Sacred Beast. Both decks are good, I feel. Sacred Beast could potentially get to the tier 2 just because of how strong the stuff in it is, especially Fallen Paradise, and just the skill in general. But don't exactly think that Blue Eyes is completely replaced, because I don't think it is. I think both of these decks have a place in the meta. Blue Eyes is, I think, a bit less good, but I disagree that it is completely overshadowed by Sacred Beast. So I think I hope this video kind of gave you some information about the two decks. And if I'm wrong in anything, or if you think differently in terms of some of the opinions, please tell me in the comments. I will read them. I read all of my comments. And yeah, just tell me if you like more of this type of video of me just talking about the game for 20 minutes. Wow, it has been 20 minutes. Wow, it's been quite a long video. But anyway, thanks for watching and bye.